This audiobook is brought to you by From the Void Publishing, in partnership with their upcoming book, Into the Void Volume 1, available now on Amazon, as an ebook and paperback. Beyond the Veil. Dr. John Randall stood there thinking of what he and his two colleagues had achieved in just 3 years. Justin Lincoln and Jake Austin had been there through it all. "We did it," John said. They stood in front of the large machine, which was a reclined chair that looked like it belonged in a dentist's office. Directly above it was a metal device that looked like a large telescope. The only difference between the machine and a telescope was it had a long, thin needle and something that looked like a pair of tweezers coming from where you would look through a telescope. They all stood there admiring their work. None of them spoke, but they all thought of what brought them here. They all knew that there were colors, lights, perhaps something even greater hidden behind a nerve in the human eye. They hadn't told anyone of their discovery. They knew with no real proof everyone would think that they were crazy, especially when they heard the knowledge had come from a voice in a dream. "Ready for a human test?" asked John. "As ready as we'll ever be," Jake said nervously. "I'll do the controls," Justin said confidently. John walked over to the machine and laid in the chair. Jake walked over and strapped John to the chair and put the eye speculum on his eyelids. His eyes were stuck in an open position. Jake looked at John worriedly and said, "Are you sure about this? If something goes wrong, you could..." John cut him off and said, "Yes, I'm sure. We have to prove our theory. We could discover a brand new, completely unknown world. It's been hidden from us behind our own eyes." Jake smiled and said, "Okay, Justin, you ready?" Justin gave Jake a thumbs up and said, "Yeah, just get out of the zone needed for the surgery." Jake walked over to the controls booth where Justin stood. The control booth was a control stick on a panel in front of a monitor, which showed 3 different views of John from the mechanism above the chair. Justin pulled the control stick down and tilted it to the left. The long needle went into John's left eye. John squealed and tried to jerk his arm up. John's arm caught on the strap fast and hard, jerking the chair up. "You okay?" Jake asked worriedly. Yeah, John said, obviously hurt, trying to catch his breath. Justin looked up and said, "Just need one more eye, then we're done." John relaxed his arm and said, "I can see it. It's blurry, but I see the lights. They're beautiful." Justin lifted the control stick up, tilted it to the right, then pushed the control stick down. The needle lowered down slowly, piercing John's right eye. The tweezers then slowly lowered and grabbed a small red vein. Justin lifted the control stick and watched the monitors as a red vein around 3 and 4 inches was pulled from the eye. John laid there. "John, you okay?" Jake asked. John said nothing, but he saw so much. They saw him lying there, but he saw himself up and walking in a brand new world. He looked around. Nothing but a huge spanning world of red rock-like structures and an inch or so of dark black liquid covering the ground of the entire seeable area. John looked up. He put his hand over his eyes to protect them from the light of the 3 dark purple stars in the sky. They were roughly the size of the sun, but they were all much closer to this land than the sun John saw every day was to the world John knew. He looked to the left and saw a huge ocean of dark black liquid. He walked towards it. He walked 15 yards when the ground went from the red rocky substance to the light gray sand. John stood 10 yards from the ocean. There was a sound from the water, like a sigh. "Hello?" John asked. His voice shook the entire world and was in a much higher pitch than seemed humanly possible. John put his hand over his mouth quickly, startled by the power of his voice in this new world. Something under the black liquid slowly emerged. It hovered out of the water, then above the water. It floated there, 50 feet over the water, a huge, dripping, veiny, pulsating sphere made of interconnected lumps of bloody meat. John Randall, the being from planet Earth, it said. Its voice hurt John's ears worse than anything he'd ever experienced before. What are you? John asked. His voice shook the world once again. The one who called you, it answered. My dream? John asked, obviously confused. Yes, the instructions for my machine, it said. John looked even more confused as he asked, why us? The sphere was pushed open by a long, bright red arm. The black liquid and chunks of meat slid off of it. The arms broke and elongated all the way down to the beach and grabbed John. Then the arms shot back to the top like a rubber band that was pulled too far. The hands held John in the air. John smelled rotting meat. He took a long breath in. The more he smelled the stench, the cloudier his mind became. The sphere opened in the middle. A giant glowing eye stared at him. The bright green light made him feel warm and safe. You are my child. The warmth you feel is the love of your God. Go forth and speak my name, my beautiful boy. It said to him. To Jake and Justin, mere minutes had passed. They stood there trying to resuscitate John. Come on, wake up, damn it, they both said over and over, panicked. John opened his eyes slowly. Oh, thank God, they both said, with a sigh of relief. Are you okay? Jake asked after taking off the restraints. John sat up. John simply said, Sarcofuse. Jake and Justin screamed and grabbed their heads. Both of their eyes began to bleed, then the ears. They scratched at their faces until the fingernails tore off of the tips of their fingers and caught in their own flesh. It's so beautiful! They both screamed. Their gums dried and their teeth fell out. Their hair fell out in clumps. They fell to the floor. Their flesh began to liquefy. They laid there, just a puddle of flesh around a skeleton. John walked out of the room, dedicated to spreading the name of his God.